Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official college basketball 2023 preseason bracketology, where we will look through all of the conferences really quickly. Who's got the most returning talent? What under-the-radar teams look good? We will go through all of it here and do kind of a little preseason bracketology. Now, the first thing I wanted to show everyone, we do have Joe Lunardi tournament preseason. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's just tough to really gauge anything. I mean, you can take a look at the 1 seeds, Gonzaga, North Carolina. The 2 seeds, UCLA, Texas, Houston, a 1 seed, Kentucky, a 1 seed. I'm not really going to go through this because it just lacks context. But you can look that up if you want. Obviously, a lot of those picks are going to be wrong. It is preseason. It's just kind of a snapshot at where we are. Now, this is normally the site I probably use the most when it comes to college basketball. It's T-Rank, and it does have a lot of interesting features, like the one, I guess you could look at returning minutes, returning talent, things like that, projected experience. I don't know what that is, but the one thing I would look at is who returns the most minutes, who's got the most veterans. Portland University returns the most overall minutes. Dayton, of course, they're a preseason top 25 team. TCU, no wonder they're inside the top 15. Norfolk State, Virginia, I'm surprised Virginia is 7th on defense. You'd figure they would be first. Tulane, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, New Mexico, Penn, Oral Roberts. So it's just interesting stuff to look at in terms of who returns the most talent. But I am going to go through all of the conferences, starting with the A-10, and just looking at some of the best teams. We're going to sort this by the overall rank. Looks like Dayton and St. Louis at the top. St. Louis, as they're a quality basketball programs. Loyola of Chicago as well. I remember that disgusting Loyola Chicago Ohio State tournament game. There were like 80 total points scored in that game. No, actually, I think it was 54-41 or something. Virginia Commonwealth, they're always pretty solid. And then there's kind of a drop-off. You've got other teams, Georgia Madison, Richmond, Davidson in the middle. Davidson always seems to be a bubble team. Same with Richmond. And then Rhode Island, and you can see kind of the bottom teams there. But it looks like Dayton and St. Louis right now, along with Loyola Chicago, the top contenders, the top teams. How about VCU's offense versus defense? What this means is VCU is going to be playing in a lot of low-scoring games, or at least they should be. If they've got the 13th defense in the country, really elite. But the 208th offense, look at Fordham, 48 versus 308. Oh my goodness. Massachusetts, on the other hand, they're going to be in a lot of higher scoring games, UMass. But that's just the A-10. I like going through all the conferences. ACC, let's take a look at the best teams. North Carolina and Duke. Not surprising, guys. North Carolina returning several key members. They made that massive run last year. Duke, basically the same thing as they've always been. They are, a one-and-done team, very inexperienced. You take a look at this experience, 0.83. They are by far the most inexperienced ACC team. It's going to be North Carolina, Duke, and then nobody else with inside the top 18 of the ACC. You've got Virginia at number 19. I've heard a lot of people saying maybe Virginia, due to their returning experience, they should be, a little bit underrated right now, possibly a top 15 team. Miami of Ohio getting a few big transfers. Virginia Tech, a top 25 team, according to T-Rank. Notre Dame, that's a team I've heard a lot about. We talk about Notre Dame's basketball. It's been disappointing. They look decent now. Clemson, that's a pretty good ranking for Clemson. 59, they should be decent. FSU all the way down at 72. I remember when FSU was like a 2 seed in the tournament like 3 years ago. Boston College, Syracuse down a bit. And then you've got Wake Forest, NC State, and then the bottom feeders, Louisville, all the way down outside of the top 100. And Pittsburgh expected to be the worst team in the ACC. Moving to, I believe this is the American East, Vermont. Looks like by far the best team in this conference. And of course, Bryant, UMass Lowell. Really not a lot to talk about. Normally, Maine is horrible. They are, again, listed at 320, but it looks like Vermont, the heavy favorite to be the automatic qualifier for the tournament out of that conference. Moving to the A-Sun, we've got Liberty, solid on offense and defense, listed inside the top 100 in both. The only team inside the top 100 in this conference, you've got Jacksonville as the main contender, really the only other contender. When you look at the rankings, the next team all the way down at 195. And how about some of these new teams? We've got Queen's University entering the fray as a Division I team. Great to see. Queen's University, they look pretty good. They're at 235, middle of the conference. We'll have to see how they do. A lot of new teams in Division I. Moving to the American, Houston. Again, Houston is just a machine. Houston basketball and Baylor basketball, both unbelievable. Memphis, they always have, with Penny Hardaway, they've had a lot of talent. They've been able to recruit. Tulane, really good on offense. The 11th offense in the country, according to those preseason rankings. Cincinnati basketball, possibly making a return. Top 60 in both offense and defense. Temple looks to be a solid team. And then there's a major drop-off between Temple and UCF. UCF all the way outside of the top 100. And then you've got East Carolina outside of the top 200, expected to be the worst team in the conference. Moving to the Big Ten. Big Ten's interesting this year. 0 teams inside the top 10, but there are some big returnees. Trace Jackson Davis for Indiana. They're currently number 1, the favorite to win the Big Ten. I don't remember the last time Indiana was the favorite in conference, but they are here. Illinois at number 15. Michigan State, they were left out of the AP Top 25. They come in at 24. Iowa, once again, great on offense. They're actually decent on defense. Normally, they're great on offense, really bad on defense. Purdue at 32, they lose a lot, but they do return that really tall center. Michigan at 38, they return Dickinson. Maryland, Rutgers. They're really down on Wisconsin and Ohio State. I would have Ohio State and Wisconsin a little bit higher. And then how about this? Minnesota. You take a look at the drop-off. Nebraska is always horrible. I mean, Nebraska, I think they've won less than 10 games the past three seasons. Northwestern at 98, and then Minnesota all the way down at 171. I just want to look at Minnesota's projected score. Look at these projected games. They're projected to lose every in-conference game. Well, it's got them at 4-16 because it figures they're going to win some of these games. But, that is pretty ugly for Minnesota basketball. Moving on to the Big 12 conference. Of course, it's Baylor, the number 2 overall team. I think they've been a 1 seed the past 2 or 3 years in the NCAA tournament. They are a machine. Texas at number 7, so they're a top 10 team. Of course, Kansas losing a lot. The reigning national champions. It's always basically impossible to repeat, especially in something that's a crapshoot like March Madness. You've got TCU, of course, returning all that talent. Texas Tech, really good on defense, really average on offense. West Virginia down at 30, really strong conference here. Look at this. 2, 7, 10, 12, 27, 30, 33, 34, 45. Wow. So that is a good conference top to bottom. That's a gauntlet. You got to feel bad for teams like Iowa State and Kansas State. They're probably going to lose a lot of games. Even like Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. I think they might be overrating this conference a little bit. Yeah, we'll have to see. Moving to the Big East, Villanova at 17. They're actually not getting a lot of hype in the preseason. This is the first time in a while Villanova has not gotten a ton of hype. Xavier, Creighton. So really 3 teams inside the top 25, then a major drop-off. St. John's inside the top 50. Seton Hall. Guys, this conference, it just seems like these teams are the same. They're just so similar. There's such little separation between Creighton, Seton Hall, UConn, Providence, Marquette, even a DePaul. And then Georgetown is expected to be terrible this year. Wow. At 177. But the Big East is always just a mosh pit. Next, we move on to the Big Sky. Montana State and Montana. It's a great rivalry there. They're the 2 best teams in this conference, but really nobody to speak of. Of course, Idaho, horrifically bad. One of the worst teams in Division I. Moving on to the next conference, I believe this is the Big South. Longwood University, the only green on this entire conference is Longwood's offense. They're projected to go 26-7, and they're returning almost 80% of their overall minutes. It's interesting they have more talent on Radford, it says, at 20.1, whatever that means, but they're all the way down here. But either way, guys, it looks like Longwood, the heavy favorite, and then you've got UNC Asheville. Other than that, all of these teams in the mid-200s. Not a good conference there. Moving on to maybe the Big West, UC Santa Barbara, the current favorite. UC Irvine also there as well. Not much going on with this conference. Look at this. Cal State, UC. The abbreviation conference. That's what this is out of the Big West. Next, we've got the CAA. Townsend, the current favorite. Pretty good on offense. The only team inside the top 100. College of Charleston, expected to be a contender. And then you've got the worst teams here. My goodness. Remember when Drexel made the tournament and faced Illinois when Illinois was the 1 seed? And Illinois lost. They won that game 1v16, and they lost to like the 8 seed or whatever. That was like 2 years ago. What is this? Conference USA? UAB, the number 1 overall team. And then you've got North Texas, the only 2 teams inside the top 60. Expect those teams to be battling it out. FAU at 85, Louisiana Tech, and you've got, some variance there. And then you've got 3 really bad teams outside of the top 200 in the Conference USA. How about the Horizon League? Yes, Fort Wayne. When did Fort Wayne join the Horizon? It seems like they're adding teams. They're subtracting teams every year. Look at Youngstown State. A pretty good offense and a horrible defense. And then IUPUI, the worst team in college basketball. Look at their overall page. It is epic. They're actually favorites against Green Bay by 1.5 points on February 4th. So congratulations to them. But they actually face a few non-Division I teams. I guess they just can't calculate the spreads of the non-Division I games. But it looks like Fort Wayne and Northern Kentucky in a toss-up. Very close, very similar. Once again, Youngstown State really good at offense, really bad at defense. The next conference is the Ivy League. We got Penn. So yes, Penn returns a ton of minutes, 86%. This is a veteran team. They're currently the favorite to win the Ivy League. You've got Yale, Harvard, also inside the top 200. And then we've got Columbia outside the top 300. It always seems like the Ivy League is a mosh pit, to be honest with you guys. It always does. And it's probably going to be that again. The MAAC, Iona. Yes, I love Iona. The current favorite. Oh, this is always a mosh pit. This is the league that always plays those Sunday afternoon games. I swear, every Sunday afternoon, they play like 2 o'clock games. Ryder, Manhattan. Yes, this league is always, they're very close. They're very close. This might be the most competitive college basketball conference there is, the MAAC. Next, we've got the MAC and Toledo. So guys, Toledo is really good at football this year and also basketball and has a very good offense, 76. You've got Akron also, outside the top 100. So it looks like Toledo's the favorite. Kent State and Ohio. And then you've got a few really bad teams down here. Miami of Ohio, Central Michigan, and Bowling Green. So that should be a good year for the MAC. Moving on to the MEAC conference, we've got Norfolk State. The current Norfolk State, the heavy favorite. Oh my goodness, look at this. We've got NC Central at 282, Norfolk State at 140. They've got to be favorites in every conference. Yeah, they are. 22-8, 11-3 in conference. They should be the auto bid out of this league. You would think it's a very bad league. Delaware State, one of the worst teams in college basketball this year, at least projected to be. The MVC. Yes, Drake. Guys, Drake is going to be really good this year. Bradley, Southern Illinois, but I would say Drake right now, the heavy favorite. They're projected to go 23-6. They've got the talent. They've got returning. How about Indiana State returning 83% of their overall minutes? So yeah, guys, this will be interesting. And I would expect Drake to be the favorite. And also, how about Bradley? Very good defense for Bradley. Should be a good league overall. The MWC. San Diego State. Guys, San Diego State, always a really good defensive team, and this year is no different. They're the 14th team in the country. They face Ohio State in a tournament early in the season. That'll be a good game. Wyoming also inside the top 50. This is a good conference. Utah State, Fresno State, New Mexico, Colorado State, all inside of the top 100. And then how about San Jose State? My goodness, at 228. What's the overall spread between San Jose State and San Diego State? Plus 19. Oh, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yeah, but San Jose State's going to be really bad. San Jose State's actually good at football, guys. They're real good at football. The NEC, Merrimack, the current oh my goodness. Wagner. It always seems like Wagner wins this league, but there's another newcomer, Stonehill, a newcomer. They're listed as one of the worst teams. But yeah, this is a terrible league. Holy crap. The best team is 231. It's probably going to be a toss-up there. Merrimack is the favorite. What was that? The N. We're on to the OVC, Morehead State. They do make the tournament. This is another horrible league. Tennessee State listed as well. I wonder who returns the most. Looks like SIU Edwardsville. Southern Indiana is another newcomer. Little Rock could be a surprise team in this league. Lindenwood is another newcomer. So congratulations to these teams. Moving to I believe this is the Pac-12, yes. UCLA. Listed as the number 9 overall team. Arizona at 13. Wow, this is a bad conference. You have 2 teams inside the top 35. Oregon at 36, kind of a down year for them. Stanford, that's pretty good for Stanford basketball at 37. USC, they've kind of been bipolar at 40. That's kind of where they've always been, USC, although they've had elite talent like Evan Mobley. Arizona State outside of the top 50. Washington State, and then how about this? Oregon State at 276. For a Power 5 conference or Power 6 for basketball, that is horribly low for a team. Horribly low. Moving on, what is this? The Patriot League? Colgate. Yes, Colgate is always phenomenal. They're always great at offense. Navy as well. You've got Boston University, and then you've got Holy Cross pulling up the rear in the Patriot. Moving to the SB, we've got Louisiana Lafayette, Texas State. Very, very competitive league here. A lot of teams, a lot of chances. Big league as well. I don't know who's going to win that. It's very tough to gauge just from those numbers. Moving to the, what was that? The SB, the SC, not the SEC, the SC. Furman. They're always a solid team. I remember when they started like 7, they were like 7-0, I think. I remember them winning a bunch of games. Maybe they were like 13-0 to start one of the years, and they were ranked. UNC Greensboro, Samford, Chattanooga, all solid teams, and then VMI, the Citadel, pulling up the rear there. Moving to the SEC, this should be a very competitive conference. Tennessee, I would move Tennessee down a little bit. They're returning 56%. I mean, we'll see that they have been recruiting really well. Arkansas is only returning 15, but they do have Nick Scott, like the number 3 overall recruit. Kentucky, of course, returning to Shibley. A&M listed at number 18. That is like the highest they've been ever. I don't know if it's, yeah, you can say look at the transfer points they've gotten. Look at Missouri's transfer points, 568. Who did they get? But this is a good conference. Auburn at 22, Florida at 26, Bama. Oh, wow, Bama's all the way down at 39. I think they're in the preseason AP poll. Ole Miss, Missouri. Georgia is normally always last or second last. Georgia basketball is terrible. Remember Anthony Edwards going to Georgia? Because I think he's from Georgia. The SWAC, Southern. Wow, Southern is the heavy favorite in this conference. They've got a good defense. Texas Southern. That's a nice rivalry there. But this is another horrible conference. Florida A&M. Mississippi Valley State is normally always one of the worst teams in college basketball. Moving to whatever this league is, Nicholls State. Kind of the heavy favorite. Texas A&M, Corpus Christi returning a ton of talent. So they might be a team to bet on early if you believe in that type of thing. The Summit, Oral Roberts. Yes, we remember Oral Roberts beating Ohio State. It's disgusting. It's not good. That was a few years ago. South Dakota State, South Dakota, North Dakota State, Denver. Denver is always horrible. Or they have like a tough non-conference every year, and they're like 2-20, it feels like. Western Illinois, Nebraska, Omaha is always horrible too. Moving on to the WAC, Utah Valley over Grand Canyon early on here. Seattle returns a ton of talent. Wow. But another really bad conference, of course. And then the WCC, Gonzaga. Gonzaga really should have joined the Pac-12 a while ago. I think they wanted to, and the Pac-12 declined them or something like that for basketball. It's just ridiculous that they're still in this league, but they're the number one overall team. Then you've got St. Mary's, who's always very solid. They're always normally second. And then BYU. San Francisco's really put together a few good years. They've turned their program around. That's great to see. Yeah, Pacific is normally always the worst. Loyola Marymount is normally always really bad as well. But that's just some stuff there. Just looking at the top offenses in college basketball, try and find some contrast. So Notre Dame expected to be a really good offense and kind of an average defense at 89. I want to find a really good offense and a really bad defense. South Dakota, 49th best offense, 267th best defense. Youngstown State's probably the biggest contrast. Bryant as well, 68 versus 288. And then the best defenses with horrible offenses. San Diego State, Texas Tech, 99th best offense, 4th best defense. VCU is probably the biggest one. 13th best defense, 208th best offense. Is there any red offenses? Fordham. But that is that. So that's just some interesting stuff to look at. They have these transfer points. I don't really know the context of these. Like Southern Miss, Sacramento. I'm guessing these teams just got like 7 transfers. But that really wouldn't mean anything if the transfers aren't very good. Like, I would expect to see Miami on this list, but they're not. I know Miami, like, they got a big transfer. I guess it was only one kid. But I don't know. I think this is kind of weird. But apparently Missouri got a bunch of kids. The overall talent, I'm guessing Duke is not number 1. North Carolina apparently has the most talent. Michigan is number 2. That's kind of surprising. UCLA, I would put Duke number 1 just in pure talent. And then this thing is it's annoying to explain. So like this overall, what this means, like 95, this means Gonzaga would have like a 95% chance to win on a neutral court against a team that's like the most neutral team in college basketball, St. Joseph's. So right now, St. Joseph's 0.50, 13. They're the most average team in college basketball. That's what that means. And Gonzaga would have a 95% chance to beat St. Joseph's on a neutral court. And then it's just like the same thing. It's like Stonehill would have a 3% chance to beat St. Joseph's on a neutral court. That's basically what that thing means. Because people ask about that. But guys, that's just going through every conference. Again, this is the overall. This is just a bracket here from Lenardi. Again, it's like, you can take a look at the conference winners, Wagner or Southern, Nicholls State. It's kind of the favorites that we've seen. Auto qualifier. Toledo is the favorite in the MAC. UAB is the favorite in their conference. Oral Roberts. It's kind of all the favorites. Vermont. So it's there's not a lot of context to it. But guys, that is going to do it for my preseason bracketology for 2023. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.